The heavenly and fierce Emperor plus the Empress has no CP+No system, no gold finger. If I were to live in this world forever, could I wait for him to come back? She looked back, as eternity flowed by. The Empress standing at the pinnacle of humanity, not for immortality or immortality, only to see the person that Chao Siye had thought of again. Her talent is stunning for eternity. With a constitution that is not as good as that of a mortal body, she ascends against the heavens and creates unparalleled martial arts. She competes with the heavens, the earth, and herself, living in reverse for 4 lifetimes, stepping on the immortal path, and becoming an immortal in the mortal world. A vast and brilliant world of immortals and knights, with alien races rampant and heavenly pride rising together, ancient mysteries shrouded in strange and bizarre colors, the legendary path of a generation of empresses. Keywords of the novel. Zhetian. Empress's proud journey without pop-ups, Zhetian. Empress's proud journey TXT complete collection download, Zhetian. Empress's proud journey latest chapter reading. Chapter 1. Preface. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Chapter 1. Preface. A bean-sized flame jumped on the oil lamp, and the faint light barely illuminated the young man's delicate face. Under the dim light, he carefully wiped a grimace mask in his hand. There is still a ring on the table, with a smooth surface reflecting a jumping firelight, which has clearly been meticulously wiped. Brother. Cold. The weak voice of the little girl came from one side of the house, and the boy stopped what he was doing and stood up. The girl kicked off the blanket again. Did she have a nightmare? The young man bent down to pick up the blanket and covered the little girl lying in bed, spoiling her as he spoke. No, the little girl on the bed obediently cooperated with the boy to cover herself tightly. The girl dreamed of playing with her brother during the day and accidentally. The boy touched the little girl's head and said, "It's already late. The girl needs to go to bed quickly, otherwise we won't be able to pick herbs together tomorrow." Well, the girl will sleep now. The boy tidied up the little girl's patched blanket and looked around. Under the dim light of the oil lamp, he could see that there were no valuable objects in the room. In a few more months, it will be the day of the selection of the immortals in the records. If selected this time, it will allow my sister to live a carefree life. The boy checked the little girl's blanket again, and by this time the little girl had fallen asleep, sweetly smashing her mouth. Did you dream about something delicious? The young man thought to himself. He blew out the oil lamp and fell into a deep sleep. In ancient times, people were born in the early days of the Zhou dynasty. Proud and self-sufficient, embracing simplicity and simplicity. In such a wilderness with countless ethnic groups and fierce beasts, there is a small village composed of mortals. Work at sunrise and rest at sunset. Some people speculate that behind this small village lies an unimaginable and astonishing force, secretly sheltering the people in the village. However, due to the lack of substantial evidence, this statement ultimately became a post-dinner conversation topic for the villagers, but for the villagers, there is only one thing related to it. That is the selection of immortals recorded in the village annals. Regardless of gender or age in the village, they all know that there are immortals in this world. They are not only able to fly to the sky and escape, but when facing fierce beasts that the villagers can only avoid, the immortals can easily make the other party fall apart with just a few strokes. In the dangerous wilderness, this kind of strength is undoubtedly desirable. But according to the village chronicle, the last time a person from the immortal sect came for selection was 100 years ago. According to the village chronicle, before the selection of the immortal gate, there will be a pure white bird landing at the village head's doorstep. This bird will demand the village chief to order young men and women under 18 in the village to only feed on grass and trees in the coming months, otherwise they will lose their qualification. The method of selecting immortals is also recorded, requiring young men and women to cut their wrists and sprinkle blood on a stone. If the stone shines, it will be taken away by the immortals. What will happen to the person taken away? The recording will be interrupted here. Afterwards, there is a record that one of the children who was taken away returned to the village in the name of fulfilling filial piety, and then left the village with their parents. As for where they went later, only the recorder's unfounded speculation remains, which cannot be verified. However, most villagers believe that they have become the ethereal and omnipotent immortals in their eyes. Just a few days ago, a pure white bird once again shattered the peaceful life of the village for 100 years. The village chief quickly gathered the people in the village, and the boy led the little girl among them. They discovered that this was actually a jade bird made of flawless precious jade, and therefore its entire body shimmered with a pure white luster. As recorded, the jade bird once again demanded that young men and women refrain from eating meat and fish for the next few months, and then flew away on their own. On the way home, the little girl spoke to the boy word by word. "Brother, that bird is so beautiful. When my brother becomes a fairy, I will also make a bird like that for the girl." Would my brother become a fairy and not want to be a girl? Brother wants to become a fairy with the girl. Okay, the girl is also going to become a fairy, hee. At night, everything fell silent. A bright moon hangs high in the sky, casting a cold moonlight on the earth. For ordinary people in the mountain village, night means the end of a day's hard work and a time for rest and recuperation. But for those who know how to practice in this world, breathing in their essence towards the bright moon to cultivate themselves is a necessary part every night. In the mountains and forests not far from the village, an old monkey sat on the ground, its eyes flickering with light, and strands of essence turned into white mist, lingering around its body as it swallowed. If you observe carefully, you will find a squirrel squatting on its shoulder. This squirrel, like its owner, holds its hands together, closes its eyes, and exhales. Although this squirrel has a plush body and a fluffy big tail, the pulsation it reveals as it exhales makes anyone feel that it is not a likable presence. In the pitch-black night sky, a purple light flashed by. The old monkey suddenly opened its eyes and then walked with a peculiar gait, disappearing in place. Although the Ngo Mi Xing Zi Mi is not complete, it has also given you a lot of advantages. A cold snort came from the air, and Purple Mang transformed into a humanoid creature with dragon horns. It looked around with sharp eyes, so frightened that even some weak and mischievous creatures dared not take a breath. The humanoid creature with dragon horns on its head ignored it and transformed into a 100-meter-long purple dragon, soaring up into the sky. In this vast wilderness, strength is the first law for the survival of all things, and every living creature must constantly become stronger in order to survive in this cruel environment. In the quiet of the night, the little girl fell asleep sweetly. The chirping of insects and the breathing of a little girl blend in the night, composing a strand of warmth that still exists in the cruel wilderness. The next day, the morning light was faint. A faint mist enveloped the entire village, and the figures in the village could already be vaguely seen. For ordinary people living on this land, waking up in the morning to work, farming and hunting is also a way of cultivation that belongs to them. In an ordinary thatched cottage in a corner of the village. "Baby, get up for dinner." The boy's gentle voice woke the little girl from her sleep. While controlling the heat on the stove, he stirred the congee in the pot with a spoon. This morning, as usual, he added some herbs to congee that he had collected with his sister a few days ago. Although most of them are sold for a living, there will still be a lot of surplus. The little girl opened her eyes and smelled the aroma of herbs and congee in the air, her nose rustling. "It's so delicious. My brother is cooking congee for the girl again." She sat up, made the bed, folded her quilt carefully, dressed well, and tied her hair braids unskillfully. Then she came to the boy and looked expectantly at the bubbling congee in the pot. As for congee, most of them are herbs, edible tubers and a few grains of rice. However, the herbs in the pot gleamed faintly, making the ordinary congee in the pot exude a refreshing fragrance. This is just two children randomly picking herbs, which is enough to prove the uniqueness of this land. Since the girl remembered, she has been relying on her brother in this small mountain village. Regarding the impression of parents, only people in the village have heard that their father came to the village alone with their siblings, and at that time the girl was just a baby in swaddling clothes. Their father is very strong and often helps the villagers with heavy tasks that ordinary people cannot bear. But during a hunting trip, they encountered an unexpected situation, leaving only their siblings behind. Even the elderly in the village don't know about their mother. So in all the memories of the girl, her brother is her only family member. The young man looked at the little girl with a smile on his face, rubbing her white and red face. He squatted down and spoke while adjusting the braids for the little girl. I didn't tell the girl to tie her hair this way first, and then. Before the boy could finish his sentence, he was interrupted by the little girl's crisp voice. Keep it this way. The girl actually remembered, just wanted her brother to tie her up again. The boy smiled and skillfully tied the little girl's sheep horn braid, then tidied up her clothes and touched the rough fabric, feeling a faint pain in his heart. He crouched down, holding the little girl's cheek, and spoke. If you go to pick herbs again today, my brother will take you to nearby Yancheng to buy new clothes, okay? The little girl's big eyes sparkled as she heard this, but she immediately shook her head and said, No need, brother, buy more food. The girl really likes the food her brother makes. The clothes are a bit old, but they can still be worn and don't need to be changed anymore. Listening to his sister's sensible words, the boy's heart became increasingly sour. In recent years, they have relied on picking herbs from the mountains for a living and then selling them to merchants in the village who regularly come to purchase them. It is said that they will sell to cultivators, who are often referred to as immortals by the villagers. Despite being taken care of by the villagers, they always prioritize their herbs to be harvested first. However, due to their young age, most of the herbs they pick do not meet the requirements of the cultivators and belong to the ordinary grass class. Therefore, their income is sufficient to sustain their survival. For the other people in the village, the same is true. As a powerless mortal, every time we go out, it's a gamble. It's okay to encounter ordinary ferocious beasts, but if we just run away, we may still have a way out. If you encounter a different race who knows how to practice, even a small earthworm can instantly take a person's life. However, the surrounding area of the village is relatively safe, but most of the rare fairy grasses live in dangerous areas and are guarded by exotic beasts. To obtain, one often has to pay the price of life. So even if taken care of by the villagers, the young man and little girl can still only live such a poor life. Just being able to avoid losing one's life is already very good. The boy took out a bowl and filled a big bowl of congee for the girl. Brother doesn't need to give so much to the girl, she's not hungry. The little girl noticed that the boy had almost given most of the rice to herself and quickly shook her head. The young man refused and said, A girl needs to grow her body, so eat more. It's okay, the rest of the brother can't eat it. Years of poverty have made the girl obedient and sensible. She can easily see that her brother is deceiving her again, but she knows that if she doesn't eat like before, her brother will follow her and not eat. If she can't get medicine for a day, the two of them will go hungry together. Well, I see. The little girl came to the table with a bowl in her arms, drank all the congee, gave a satisfied little burp, then went to take the bowl that her brother had drunk, and went to the pond behind the thatched house to clean it. After the little girl returned, the boy picked up the bronze ring that had been wiped clean last night and handed it to the little girl. Due to not having enough money, the boy was unable to buy interesting toys and beautiful accessories for his sister. So he made a small ring from the remaining bronze fragments of the villagers, and through careful polishing, the surface could also reflect a hazy scenery. The little girl regarded it as a treasure and even wore it on her hand while sleeping. Later, the boy advised her for a long time, probably because she was really afraid of swallowing it after sleeping. The little girl reluctantly agreed to take off the ring every night, but she would wear it on her hand the next day at the first time. The youth will wipe it carefully every night. In addition, he also used excess bronze pieces to create a ghost face mask for himself, as if crying but not crying, as if smiling but not laughing. But the first time I used this mask to scare my sister, I scared her to tears and it took me a long time to calm her down. It wasn't until a long time later that the younger sister gradually accepted her brother wearing this ghost mask to play hide and seek with her. No matter how long it has been, even though the world has changed, the bronze ring and ghost mask are the only sustenance in all the memories of the little girl and boy. At this point, the people in the village had already started to move. The woodcutter is preparing to dry yesterday's firewood, hunters stretch their muscles and bones, examining their bows, arrows, and spears as if they were treasures to watch over. The cultivators, carrying hoes, chatted and laughed with their companions as they headed towards their own fields. "Girl, let's go." We must pick a lot of medicinal herbs today." Accompanied by the brisk steps of the two lively figures, one big and one small, gradually faded away in the morning light shrouded in mist. Open a pit. I really like the ruthless emperor and want to fully write down his journey from childhood to the world of arrogance. Thank you for your support. I will listen carefully to any suggestions. This book is based on the worldview of Zhetian, but readers who have not read it need not worry. From the perspective of the female protagonist, the worldview gradually unfolds. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Medication Collection. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2 Medication Collection. Insects and insects. We're going to pick this herb and give you this sweet and delicious fruit to eat. The girl picked up a chubby little bug with her fingers, and then uprooted a medicinal plant with 3 crescent-shaped leaves, one of which had small insect bite marks. My older brother once said that this kind of herb is called march grass, and pharmacies usually offer a relatively high price. She blew mud and carefully placed the herbs in the small medicine basket behind her. The girl held a bright red fruit in one hand, covered in the marks of her newly bitten teeth. She gently bit a small piece of fruit flesh and placed it in front of the little bug, as if fulfilling her promise just now. This chubby little bug has become spiritually intelligent, and it is full of anger. Its originally chubby body has gained weight again due to anger. Just as it was about to use its magic to teach the cute little girl in front of it a little lesson, the girl suddenly reached out and pinched its body. "Insect, you are really fat. If you eat too much, you will be eaten." The girl pouted, widened her eyes, and said to the little insect in a serious manner. Not far away, a young man was smiling as he watched his sister talking to a bug. The medicine basket behind him was filled with freshly picked herbs. The red fruits were naturally just picked, and it must be said that I had really good luck today. Not only did I encounter delicious wild fruits, but I also harvested a lot of herbs. The boy was in a good mood because of this. The little bug was rarely pinched and felt comfortable all over, even opening its mouth comfortably and spitting out a bubble. I was about to change my position, but I found that the little girl had already run to another herb. "That's it, for the comfort of your massage, I'll let you go, However, this fruit is indeed quite sweet. I will search for it later." Despite having no wings, the plump little bug swooshed into the air, searching for the fruit that the little girl had just fed it. In the early morning forest, the stream murmurs. After a night of precipitation, the air is filled with fresh vitality. The breeze blew, the leaves rustled, and the young girl's voice came from the forest. "Good lotus, mash it and apply it to the wound to help heal the wound, pearl orchid. So fragrant. Add it to congee to make congee more sweet." March grass is said to be the material used by immortals to make pills, but it was eaten by insects, but there are still 2 small moons, which should also sell at a good price. The girl crouched by the stream, washing the morning harvest with her brother, occasionally picking up a plant and taking a bite. However, she always cleans up the herbs used to sell to pharmacists, carefully categorizes them, and puts them in the cleaned medicine basket. After cleaning the last herb, the boy clapped his hands and pinched the delicate cheong nose of the girl, then smiled and said, "Nan has worked hard today. Tomorrow, we will go to Yancheng and buy some delicious food for her. Despite being in the world of monks, mortals also have their own way of life. There are villages and cities, and some cultivators occasionally enter the mortal world and get drunk in the taverns of mortals. Known as entering the world for cultivation, there are many great cultivators with terrifying strength among them. So although many races are unhappy with the human race, the massacre of the city is rare. Although powerful foreign cultivators can destroy a city with just a stomp of their feet, who knows if a stronger human elder would jump out and destroy it. Perhaps only the imperial families who have once served as ancient emperors and wielded ancient imperial weapons dare to take action against the human race, but this is inevitably equivalent to declaring war on the entire human race. Different ethnic groups act independently and guard against each other. If this results in mutual defeat with the human race, it will be a waste of being taken advantage of by other ethnic groups, and even the inheritance cannot be held. In this way, even though there are countless ethnic groups, countless human cities still stand on this vast land, bustling and crowded, maintaining a lively atmosphere of the market all day long. Yancheng, as spoken by young people, is one of them, belonging to a relatively small category. Upon hearing the young man's words, the girl happily swayed her two little braids and nodded. So my brother can also have enough to eat, hee. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Encounter. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. Encounter. As soon as the sky started to brighten, the girl woke up. Her big eyes were devoid of drowsiness, her mouth curved, staring at the hazy sky outside the window, her heart estimating the current time, quietly waiting for her brother to wake up. Today, my brother is taking her to Yancheng. However, although it is today's trip, due to the village being located in the wilderness, it will take 2 to 3 days to walk to the nearest Yancheng. For the girl, this will be her first time going outside the village. At this moment, there was movement in the bed on my brother's side. The girl quickly closed her dripping eyes upon seeing this. If my brother finds out that I haven't slept well, I will definitely be criticized. Waiting for my brother to wake me up is the best solution. But how could a teenager not know his sister's thoughts? Just listening to her restless voice last night, he knew she must be too excited to sleep. Alright, girl, I know you must have woken up. Get up and wash up. After we finish our meal, prepare some dry food on the way and set off. The boy's helpless voice came. Oh, I've been caught. The girl opened her eyes and awkwardly stuck out her tongue. Then she quickly got up, tidied up the bed, put on her clothes, and skillfully tied a very standard sheep horn braid. It was obvious that she just wanted her brother to tie it for her yesterday. And then hopped around to scoop out water to wash herself. Looking at his sister's excitement, the boy began to cook congee as usual while laughing. At the same time, he took out some dry food and charcoal for the fire, and carefully wrapped them with cloth. In the past, when my younger sister was young, teenagers often went to Yancheng to buy some daily necessities on their own, so they were quite familiar with the journey. Bringing my younger sister on this trip not only adds an extra mouth for eating, but also a lot of things to consider, such as setting up a more comfortable sleeping place at night, helping my younger sister drive away mosquitoes at night, and so on. Self-defense is also very important. The firewood knife for chopping medicine must be carried with you, as well as a water source. One kettle may not be enough, so it seems like you need to carry 2 on your back. Just as the boy's thoughts were swirling, his sister's voice pulled him back to reality. Brother, the girl has already packed up. He indulged in a smile, and the congee was almost cooked. Good girl, dinner will be served soon. After breakfast, 2 figures, one big and one small, left the village in the dim morning light. Before leaving, the girl did not forget to put the bronze ring on her hand. The mountains and valleys, as well as the rugged rocks, are the most authentic portrayal of the mountains in this vast wilderness. On the steep cliff edge, the boy and the little girl walked cautiously. A slight mistake can lead to falling into the abyss next to you. And this narrow path built by the cliff is a necessary path for the villagers to walk out of the mountains. They had already traveled for most of the day, following the route they remembered, passing through this steep sheep intestines path, then through a section of primitive forest, and arrived at the open area where they could find a dedicated post station and take a carriage to Yancheng. Walking is also possible, and if it weren't for taking my sister, the young man would naturally choose to walk. She walked through the last narrow path and arrived at the flat ground, where the girl sat down on the ground. It's such a scary journey. If only the girl could fly, my brother and the girl wouldn't have to go through so much trouble. As she spoke, she wiped her sweat and felt lingering fear for the just journey. The boy touched his sister's head and then took out a bright red fruit and handed it to her. The girl is really great. When my brother first walked this way, he wasn't as brave as the girl. He looked into the distant jungle and said, "Staying overnight in the jungle at night is dangerous. We'll stay here tonight." Roaring pot, the girl responded vaguely with her mouth full of fruit. The construction of the campsite went extremely smoothly, and the bonfire was also successfully lit. At this afternoon, as the sky was still bright, the boy decided to pick some wild fruits and mix them with dry food as food. "Girl, let's go find some more fruits." The boy called out to the little girl, who stopped playing with the unlucky grasshopper he had just caught and followed. The jungle on the edge of the mountain is different from the eerie and solemn depths of the mountain, but instead exudes a vibrant atmosphere. There are no towering ancient trees like those in the deep mountains and forests here. All that can be seen are lush low trees, and the sound of birds echoes in every corner of the forest. As the boy and little girl delve deeper, startled birds occasionally flutter and fly away. The fish in the stream are flipping their bright white bellies, while squirrels climb up and down the vines. In some dark and damp corners, there are also various strange-shaped poisonous insects quietly lurking, waiting for the unlucky ones to be brought to their doorstep. In such a world full of spiritual energy, this region has existed for at least thousands or even tens of thousands of years, but only a very small number of creatures have begun to develop their spiritual intelligence, which is undoubtedly an abnormal thing. But for the teenagers and little girls at this time, this is undoubtedly the best. They naturally wouldn't realize this, just easily searching for suitable fruits and walking while eating. Hiccup. The girl let out a full hiccup. "I won't eat anymore. There are so many fruits, and the girl can't eat anymore." Picked all the way, the boy handed the fresh and plump fruits to the girl and said she could eat them as she pleased because there were still many in the entire forest. The fruit nurtured by spiritual energy is not an ordinary product. The girl nibbled on it one after another. And then, she ate to the fullest. "Brother, let's take a break. The girl can't walk anymore." The girl pleaded with tears. How could the young man not agree? He nodded and casually picked off a few thick leaves, laying a temporary cushion for his sister. The girl sat down and let out a long sigh of relief. Before the two of them could speak, with a loud bang, something fell straight from the shade above their heads onto the ground next to the girl, which was covered in leaves. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. A Squirrel. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. A Squirrel. Ah! Something suddenly came from the sky, which startled the girl. She screamed and leaned back. The boy instinctively stood in front of the girl, who grabbed the boy's shoulder and timidly revealed half of his head and bright big eyes. Startled, the two of them saw the scene before them clearly. A squirrel covered in blood and with messy fur, lying on all fours in the just smashed pit. I saw its belly bulge and bulge, obviously not out of breath. It fell from such a high place with such a great force, yet it could still maintain breathing. The squirrel's body was covered in terrifying wounds, especially the two huge incisions on its back and abdomen, which almost cut open the squirrel's skin and muscles, revealing its dense white bones. The wound was uneven, probably caused by being forcefully torn open by sharp claws, and the act was ruthless and vicious, indicating how fierce the squirrel had encountered an opponent at that time. The girl poked her head out and looked left and right, seemingly not feeling any danger. She patted the boy's shoulder and spoke. "Brother, the little squirrel is so pitiful. Let's help it." The young man also had this intention, but it was obvious that the squirrel had an extraordinary background. If it went rashly and any danger occurred, it would harm his sister. Okay, but let the girl stand still and let her brother explore first. He reached out and broke off a branch from the side, then cautiously walked forward. "Good brother," the girl answered obediently. The boy leaned closer and didn't feel anything wrong. He stretched out a branch and gently poked the squirrel a few times. But the squirrel remained motionless like mud, and even due to nervousness and trembling, its furry body shook a bit. A large amount of blood seeped out from the wound on its belly and back again, dripping down its fur and leaving a puddle of blood on the ground below it. Upon seeing this, the young man harbored a series of hidden sins in his heart. He quickly dropped a branch, picked up a squirrel with a large leaf, turned around and called his curious sister, and rushed back to the campsite. So bitter," the girl muttered as she chewed on the herbs. She spread the chewed herbs into small cakes on her little hands and handed them to her brother who was carefully wrapping the squirrel. They first used stream water to clean the wound of the squirrel and wash away the blood stains on its fur. Despite being unconscious, the little squirrel still trembled slightly as water ran through the wound. Even if he faints, the little squirrel must be in pain, the girl thought to herself. Afterwards, the boy asked his younger sister to pick some herbs for hemostasis, chew them up, spread them into cakes, and apply them to the wound, then wrap them with gauze. Due to the wounds covering his entire body, the little squirrel was covered tightly, leaving only a furry big tail and a pink and tender nose exposed. Seeing this, the girl couldn't help but reach out and pinch the big tail that looked easy to touch. At this moment, the sky is approaching dusk. A few floating clouds lazily floated in the air, and a few flying birds crossed through the clouds, leaving a pitch-black silhouette before sunset. In the distance, gusts of cold wind blew from the bottomless valley, causing the leaves of the forest behind to rustle. The chirping of insects, the chirping of birds, the roar of beasts, and the cries of unknown animals echo in this vast expanse of heaven and earth. From time to time, there are several long rainbows shining in the sky. Perhaps the immortals have passed by here, the young man thought to himself. Brother's craftsmanship is amazing. Every time a girl gets injured while playing, he bandages her wound and recovers quickly. Don't be fooled by the severity of your injury, apply some herbs and she will recover soon. Come on, little squirrel. He looked at his sister, who was talking to the airtight little squirrel on the side of the package, and couldn't help feeling very happy. How many people endure 100 years of loneliness just to climb the sky and sing? How many people bravely bid farewell to their parents and their beautiful faces, only to struggle and cross the path of becoming immortals? How many people, with their swords and shadows, fought tirelessly for a lifetime of fame amidst blood-stained laughter? Is it not worth guarding and cherishing the current situation and scenery in front of us? The young man was lost in thought. At this time, the sunset has completely set, stars are dotted in the night sky, congee in the pot is bubbling, and the cool evening wind blows the fragrance far away, naturally blowing the smelling girl. Wow, it smells so good. The girl clapped her hands and stood eagerly on the side. The boy joked, "Didn't you eat a lot of fruits just now? Why are you hungry again?" If it goes on like this, the girl will become the chubby little bug she saw yesterday. Upon hearing this, the girl blushed slightly and desperately explained, "But my brother did a great job." Are you hungry again? The young man naturally knew that wild fruits could not satisfy his hunger, so he decided not to tease his sister anymore. The two of them chatted and laughed under the starry sky, spending a warm and happy night. Before going to bed, the girl didn't forget to visit the squirrel. She specifically begged her brother to make a small bed with big leaves for the squirrel, and the squirrel lay on it just right. At this moment, the little squirrel's breathing was stable, and its originally tense expression also eased slightly. The girl gently poked its little nose, and then went to sleep satisfied. Tomorrow, we can go to Yancheng. Hee, super happy. With such thoughts and a tiring day, the girl fell into a deep sleep accompanied by the chirping of insects. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Yancheng, Part 1, you are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5 Yancheng, Part 1, Pop. A crystal-clear dewdrop fell from the air and hit the sleeping face of the girl. Then a furry big tail swept straight up and cleaned the wet face of the girl. Wow! The girl had not yet woken up from the drowsiness caused by the water droplets, but she was startled by the overwhelming fluffy thing in front of her. However, she felt that this thing seemed harmless. Ha ha ha, it's so itchy. Brother. Where are you, brother? What is this? The girl hurriedly covered her face with her little hand and got up, only then did she see the scene in front of her. A furry squirrel was staring at her with big purring eyes, with a harmless expression on its face. Ah! It's the little squirrel. You're recovering, the girl exclaimed in surprise. Unlike yesterday's miserable appearance, although the hair is still a bit messy, most of its wounds have healed, but the abdomen and back are still wrapped in gauze, indicating that someone has helped it remedicate. The young man watched all of this happily on the side, and he actually got up early in the morning. Knowing that my younger sister went on a long journey yesterday for the first time, it was inevitable that the journey would be difficult, so I wanted her to sleep a little longer. But it was discovered that the little squirrel broke free from its bandage on its own and sat sideways like a human. The morning mist surrounded its body as it vomited, and the wound around its body was already scarred. However, the wound on its abdomen and back was too severe, just barely enough to stop bleeding. Feeling the boy wake up, the little squirrel shakes its big tail to express gratitude. Then he gently licked the wound on his belly and back, and vaguely, the boy saw a green light flickering at the wound. It seems that the essence of yesterday's herb is completely integrated into the flesh and blood, so it can recover so quickly. The young man secretly guessed. He immediately stepped forward and took out the remaining herbs from yesterday. When the little squirrel saw this, it lay down on its back, as if saying, "I'm lying down now, come and give me some medicine." "You're really not polite." The young man felt a sense of joy in his heart. Although he knew that the little squirrel had an extraordinary background, he felt that it was no different from ordinary small animals, simple and clever. Knowing that the other party has no ill intentions, they will let go of all defenses. This is the simplicity and purity that belongs to all animals. He carefully took care of the wound for the little squirrel and then went to light a fire to prepare breakfast. He didn't notice that the little squirrel, which had just been wrapped up, was bouncing around to tease his sister who had just woken up. So today's breakfast became 3 people together. The boy and the little girl were drinking a bowl of herb congee, while the little squirrel squatted between the little girl's 2 sheep's horns and ate a herb. Its fluffy and soft tail hung behind the little girl's head, thinking that he had found such a comfortable position. "Squirrel, let's go now. You can sit still." "Oh my, squirrel, please don't scratch the girl, okay?" "Ha ha ha. Woo woo woo." After tidying up the things in the camp, the girl was held by her brother's small hand and shook her head, as if to remind the squirrel. However, the squirrel's tail swept over her back neck with the shaking of its head, causing the girl to itch and laugh uncontrollably. The young man laughed heartily on the side. The ground in the forest is covered with soft leaves, and stepping on them makes a rustling sound. The clear laughter of the youth and the childish pleading of the girl, as well as the faint creaking sound of a squirrel, gradually drifted away in the forest until it completely disappeared. The flowing water gurgled, and a fallen leaf drifted down, creating a ripple on the surface of the stream. It then flowed downstream and was washed into a deep valley by the stream. In this less than a few miles of heaven and earth, one of the happiest memories of the girl was left behind. In countless years to come, she recalled more than once the scene of meeting her brother and the little squirrel. We're out. The girl walked through the jungle and looked up at the sky, lifting her two little hands high as if celebrating victory. The little squirrel, in order to cooperate with her, also raised its small paws and furry big tail. At this moment it was noon and the scorching sun was hanging high. The boy looked at the familiar post station not far away, touched his sister's head, and at the same time flicked the tail of the little squirrel. The former smiled sweetly, while the latter sneered coldly. Next, we can go to the post station and take a carriage to Yancheng. This way, the girl can watch the scenery and drive on the way without being so tired. The girl nodded happily at the words and then clenched her little hand. For her, it's really easy to be happy. However, she still spoke up and said, "It's okay, brother. A girl is not afraid of fatigue. As long as she can be with her brother, it's okay for her to be tired at all." A wave of warmth surged in the young man's heart as he fondly rubbed his sister's face, causing the squirrel sitting on the girl's head to shake its head and elicit a grunt of dissatisfaction. "Let's take a break at the post station, have some food, and then continue on our journey." The boy led the girl towards the post station. "Good brother." The squirrel raised its paw and placed it in its ear, as if saying, "Good brother." On the plaque in front of the post station, there are 4 big characters engraved. Ronghua Post Station. The overall scale of the post station is not large, after all, few people come out of the mountains. If you raise too many horses but cannot afford them, then the situation will be big. In order to save costs, post stations often have enough people to gather 2 carriages before they can set off. There's nothing to worry about regarding safety. It's only a half-day drive from Yancheng here, and the fierce beasts with no long eyes have long been cleaned up by the immortals and masters in the sky. Powerful alien races disdain to attack mortals, but it is said that they seem to prefer powerful human cultivators. Perhaps there is some bloody truth hidden here, so it's better not to delve deeper. In short, Ronghua Post Station was completely founded and operated by ordinary people. It can be said that it is a special line from the mountains to Yancheng, and also a lifeline. Not only do the staff of the post station rely on the income of the post station to support their families, but some villagers in the mountains also have to go to Yancheng to do some necessary things to make a living. The way for ordinary people to survive is also one of the myriad paths in this world. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Yancheng, Middle. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. Yancheng, Middle. When the young man and his group arrived at Yancheng, it was already evening. "Ladies and gentlemen, stop here." The coachman reined in his horse and drove the carriage to an open space by the city gate, shouting to the inside of the carriage. "Girl, grab my hand and be careful. You know, little squirrel, hold on to your braids." Squeak. The young man led his younger sister to jump off the carriage, while the little thing on top of him looked curiously at the ancient city in front of him. The city walls are not very high, but each brick is deeply engraved with the traces of time. The soldiers guarding the city were dressed in heavy armor, and their sharp eyes shone through their face armor, cautiously scanning the group of new visitors. Under the sky, there is nothing but royal soil. Yan City is actually a part of a certain ancient country, and cultivators do not disdain the power struggles of the mortal world, but the princes, nobles, generals, and prime ministers enjoy it tirelessly. There are countless ancient kingdoms with vast territories on this land, and they divide their territories based on each other's cities. The driver took out a token and shook it at the soldier, who ignored the situation and went to patrol the city wall on his own. "Big guy, hurry up and stay in the city. If it's late, there won't be any place." The coachman reminded him to prepare to enter the city as well. The horse has been running all day and needs to rest well. The girl could no longer hold back her excitement and joyfully grabbed her brother's hand as she ran towards the city gate. When she stepped on the first bluestone slab in the city, the girl's big eyes reflected the brilliant scene of lights in front of her. Although the sky gradually darkened, the city was brightly lit, decorated with colorful lanterns that extended along the streets to the depths of dense crowds. The streets were crowded with people, and the vendors on both sides shouted tirelessly. Bingtanghulu. Sweet Bingtanghulu. Crispy roasted duck. Freshly baked crispy roasted duck. New fabric. A quality that only immortals can appreciate. In a corner of the street, a chubby Taoist with a red face is squatting in front of a stall that looks like an antique stall, bargaining with the boss with a small gadget. I said, "Boss, you're quite new, aren't you?" "What are you talking about, my guest? These are authentic local goods." Whispering. The Taoist shook his head, threw down his little gadget, and left. Is it just unearthed? Can he still not know? Behind them was a bustling tavern, with some people appearing drunk inside and punching the drunk king 8 fists. Ha ha ha. I am the 7 stars of the Big Dipper descending to earth. Look. Move. Give back the Big Dipper 8 stars. Hurry up and pay for the wine, or we'll send you to the government. In the tavern, others were drinking while chatting and laughing, enjoying themselves with programs. One day in the mortal world, lingering without returning. Nan has never seen such a scene before. She held her brother's hand and looked around curiously. The young man naturally felt his sister's excitement, and originally planned to take her for a good stroll and accompany her on this trip. The young man crouched down and held his sister's face. Let's go sell some herbs first, and then go to a top-tier hotel. Once we settle down, let's take a good stroll with the girl, okay? Okay. Selling herbs is also one of the purposes of this trip, and city businesses often offer a fair price. There are multiple businesses in Yancheng that can purchase medicinal herbs, and young people are one of their loyal customers. The business owner is also happy to accept the young man's medicinal herbs, after all, they are first hand raw materials picked from deep in the mountains, which are much more reassuring and fresh than those of merchants. With silver, the boy and the little girl found the inn, settled in their place, and plunged into the bustling crowd. Well, brother, you can eat one more. The girl can't eat any more. The girl chewed the sour and sweet bingtanghulu, and shared it with her brother wisely. The little squirrel also had a good taste, and he held the tomatoes on sticks and ate it. The young man didn't refuse his sister's kindness. He lowered his head and bit away one, which was sour, sweet, and crispy, exploding between his lips and teeth. He nodded contentedly and then looked around for any other snacks he could buy for his sister. Candy pincher. A shout on the street caught the attention of the boy and the girl. Not far in front of them, a craftsman is playing with several vivid sugar figurines. This naturally attracted many children to watch, including snotty children about the same age as girls. The girl leaned forward, and the craftsman looked at the strange combination of a boy, a little girl, and a squirrel in front of him, skillfully manipulating them with his fingers. In no time, a little squirrel, a little girl, and a young sugar man blew it out. The children exclaimed in amazement, "Wow," and there were a few faint drooling sounds. The girl's big eyes also sparkled with a flickering spirit. It can be seen that she really likes this little sugar man. The young man saw the situation and resolutely bought it. Then we calculated the remaining funds, and despite receiving special care from the business owner, the remaining money will also be enough to purchase daily necessities. It happened to be late, so I should take my sister back to rest. Thank you, brother. The girl really likes it. On the way back, the girl held her little sugar figurine and looked left and right. The cool night breeze blew over her face, which was flushed with excitement. The little squirrel also held up its own sugar man, but it seemed to have been considering whether to eat it or not. But before handing it to the little squirrel, the girl specifically instructed. Little squirrel, be good. If you eat it, Sugar Girl will have no playmates and will be sad. Okay, I won't eat anymore. It thought angrily. The young man held his sister in one hand and the lifelike sugar figurine in the other. He naturally won't eat it, and if possible, he even wants to keep this sugar man for a lifetime. For a lifetime. If I become a fairy, can I really endure life and death and make my younger sister happy forever like this? The young man looked up at the night sky, where the stars were pouring down and a full moon was emitting a gentle light towards the earth. The girl felt like her brother had stopped, and when she saw his movements, she also followed his lead and looked up at the sky. As a result, the little squirrel fell directly into the ground. It quickly grabbed the girl's braid and swung it onto her smooth forehead. "Brother, there are many stars." "Yeah, I heard from the elderly in the village that if you become a fairy, you can go to those stars. Will there be another girl there?" The young man chuckled and said, "My sister is unique, there is only one cutest girl in this world." Hee hee. In the quiet of the night, the sound of the boy and little girl calmly breathing echoed in the room. The little squirrel lay on top of the girl and slept soundly in an extremely unsightly posture. A figure suddenly appeared in the room, looking at the squirrel with a moved expression. "I can only barely survive by completely exhausting the demon element that has achieved cultivation. I really can't resist you." The black shadow extended a furry hand, gently covering the little squirrel, and then the palm shone, enveloping the little squirrel in warm white light. The little squirrel snorted comfortably, scratched its head with its toes, smashed its mouth a few times, and continued to fall asleep. After finishing the treatment, the black shadow player injected a silver light into the little squirrel's body and whispered to himself. "Even now, I am still being chased by that evil dragon. It is difficult to protect this thing completely. I will hand it over to you as a reward for sacrificing my life to save you." After speaking, the black shadow disappeared silently from the room. Tomatoes on sticks is delicious. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Yancheng, Part 2, you are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7 Yancheng, Part 2, as the sun rose, there was gradually movement in the room. As soon as he opened his eyes, the young man realized something was wrong. The hustle and bustle of people outside the window disappeared, and the loud shouting of vendors from yesterday is also nowhere to be seen. Just as the young man was about to quietly open the window and explore, his sister's soft voice sounded from behind. The girl is sleeping so comfortably." Oh, the girl didn't realize that there was something wrong with the situation. She lazily stretched out and then picked up the little squirrel lying on her stomach. She looked closely and exclaimed in surprise. "Ah! Brother, look! All the injuries of the little squirrel are gone. The unhealed wound on the little squirrel's body has healed, and even its hair is shiny and new. Its fluffy tail hangs behind its body, like a small fluffy brown ball." The boy stopped pushing the window and turned around, bending down to look at the furry little thing in the girl's hand. He knew that this squirrel had an extraordinary background, but its recovery speed was a bit too fast. However, he knew nothing about cultivation. Perhaps for creatures who understand cultivation, this is just a simple matter. The young man reached out his hand and lightly flicked the pink and tender tip of the little squirrel's nose. The latter was about to bite, and the young man quickly withdrew his hand when he saw this. He then told his sister about his doubts and prepared to open the window to take a look. Upon hearing this, the girl rolled back to the bed with only one head exposed, and looked at her brother with the little squirrel on her head. The young man took a deep breath and pushed out a small crack in the window. When he saw the outside situation clearly, he took a cold breath in reverse. Yesterday, the bustling streets were in disarray, with various items used for setting up stalls scattered on the ground. A gust of wind knocked down a randomly placed bamboo basket and rolled it towards the opposite side of the street. My eyes were covered in scars, but I didn't even see a single person. Due to the sliding window and limited visibility, the boy decided to go out and explore. "Nan, brother needs to go out and take a look. You and the little squirrel are waiting in the room for brother, don't run around, brother will be back soon." Before leaving, he earnestly reminded the little girl lying under the bed. "I understand, brother. The girl will stay in the room obediently. She patted the blanket under her body and gave a serious and focused look. The inn is empty, and the waiter who warmly greeted them yesterday is also missing. As the young man stepped out of the inn gate, a chubby Taoist stumbled in. The chubby Taoist cursed and looked disheveled, his broad robe rotting into strips. He said, "Damn it, Taoist. What kind of luck do I have? I thought I could find good goods in mortal territory. How could I still encounter a foreign tribe slaughtering the city? Fortunately, Taoist, I have some ability, but this city is sealed by that four-legged snake. Taoist, I can't go out. Oh my God, how come there's still a living here?" He stared at the boy as if he had seen a ghost. That dragon's cultivation was not low. Just as it opened its mouth, whether on the street or inside the house, all the ordinary people in the city were swallowed clean. Standing in front of him now is a young man who cannot feel any fluctuation in cultivation, and the chubby Taoist immediately becomes alert. Either the other party is really just an ordinary person, or their strength is unfathomable, and they may not even be able to run on their own. Just as the Taoist was standing still in place, the young man also chewed on the words the chubby Taoist had just muttered. He spoke up and asked. The Taoist is polite. I just heard that the Taoist talked about the slaughter of a city by a different ethnic group, but it has nothing to do with this city full of people. The chubby Taoist still couldn't see the depth of the other person clearly, and he muttered to himself, is it really a hermit and an expert? As the saying goes, one day in a cave is 1,000 years old in the world. Although the dragon was not weak just now, it only used a simple spell, which did not easily affect the expert's concentration in divine wandering. It is reasonable that the other party did not notice. With this thought in mind, the chubby Taoist decided to view the young man as a strong cultivator. He stood in awe, politely saluting, "My fellow Taoist, it seems that the 10,000 Dragon Nest clan has lost some treasure recently. They are now heavily hunting down the Black Hand. Last night, they traced it to this place and believe that the Black Hand is hiding in this city. Alas, this bullshit 10,000 Dragon Nest clan is particularly hostile to the human race. This four-legged snake has swallowed up all the people in the city with its mouth open. Isn't it just because my own father has an ancient imperial army? I will give it to you sooner or later." Cough cough. Consciously speaking out, the chubby Taoist coughed a few times. He felt that the young man was not invincible, so he leaned forward and asked. I couldn't feel any fluctuation in my Taoist friend's magical power right in front of me. I wonder. What is your cultivation level now? The young man was pondering over vocabulary he had heard for the first time, such as 10,000 Dragon Nest and Ancient Imperial Soldier. When he heard the Taoist's words, he chuckled inwardly. The Taoist regarded him as a cultivator, no wonder he was so respectful. He quickly bowed his hand and said, "The Taoist has praised me. I am just an ordinary person. I came to Yen City on this trip only for the sake of livelihood, not as a cultivator as the Taoist claimed." The chubby Taoist was half believing and half skeptical. When the young man returned upstairs and led the little girl and Squirrel downstairs, he completely believed the young man's words. Damn it, Taoist. Didn't I look at the almanac when I went out today? I've been looking around again. The chubby Taoist felt like crying without tears in his heart. Just why can these two mortals escape a disaster? The chubby Taoist squinted his eyes and scanned the boy, the little girl, and the bouncing little squirrel, puzzled. Brother, why are everyone missing? Where have they all gone? The little girl's soft and sticky voice pulled the chubby Taoist back to reality. It's very dangerous outside now. According to this Taoist uncle, there's a dragon outside that has eaten everyone. Are you afraid of harm? As long as she is with her brother, she is not afraid. Dare to ask Chang, is there a way to leave here now? The young man asked the chubby Taoist, who had already guessed that the Taoist was a cultivator. Perhaps he would have some way. The chubby Taoist glanced at him and said angrily, I can't even get out of here, Taoist. What else can I do? It depends on when the person in the sky will beat up that four-legged snake and comply, and when we can get out. Who in the sky? This four-legged snake is a coincidence. One of the four little saints of the Baidu, the drunken saint, is enjoying himself in the tavern of this city. Its massacre directly stirred up the spirits of the people, and the ones it killed were all of our own race. How could the drunken saint look down on the young generation in the eastern wilderness, with a proud and awe-inspiring aura? His drunken fist technique was so superb that he couldn't swallow this breath. Now, it's abusive. The chubby Taoist pointed his finger to the sky. He immediately leaned in front of the young man, his small eyes shining brightly and said, however, young man, I am very interested in you, Dao Yi. Before he could finish speaking, he shouted and lifted his hand to grab a suddenly thrown fruit. He tilted his head and glared angrily at the squirrel patting its paws, who was on his hips with a proud expression, indicating that he had hit it accurately. The girl smiled and said, Squirrel, it's impolite to throw fruit at the Taoist priest. Apologize to the Taoist priest quickly. The little squirrel wagged its tail, jumped onto the girl's head, and made a face at the chubby Taoist as an apology. The chubby Taoist secretly said, this little squirrel seems quite spiritual and cannot be raised by a poor family. Is it possible that these siblings are disciples of some reclusive master who came out to raise them? I have heard of the unique cultivation methods of some reclusive masters, which allow their disciples to be completely scattered in nature, with mountains and rivers as their homes and plants as companions. Transforming this body into a part of heaven and earth, and embracing the Tao, it is said that in subsequent cultivation, one will receive protection from the Tao. 1 day of cultivation can be equivalent to 100 days of merit. However, legends are ultimately legends, which are just idle discussions among cultivators. The chubby Taoist only heard it by chance, but if that's the case, the reason why the boy and the little girl are safe and sound can be explained. He withdrew what he had just said and cleared his throat, Master, I am also a cultivator with some strength. I will definitely be able to protect you all. When that four-legged snake is sorted out later, Master, I will fly more and send you back. Making good friends with experts is countless times better than making bad friends. The chubby Taoist's little abacus was ringing in his heart. The young man was eager to thank the chubby Taoist. Thank you, Uncle Dao Chang. The girl also obediently expressed her gratitude. Above Yen City, one person and one dragon are confronting each other in the air. Evil beast, are you not afraid of being cleared by heaven when crossing the tribulation? The man, dressed in white, said coldly as he hunted. If city dwellers were here, they would be surprised to find that this was actually the drunkard who spoke loudly in the tavern yesterday. At this moment, his sword eyebrows were raised, his face was full of anger, and he clenched his fists, ready to take action. During the ancient times, the human race was known for its superior blood diet. Today, a taste of it is well deserved and worth reminiscing about. Across from him, 100-meter-long purple dragon licked its tongue, uttering human words. Its gloomy teeth were accompanied by bloodstains, and countless creatures' cries of pain could be faintly heard in its mouth. The man in white remained silent and disappeared from his original position. He flashed towards the purple dragon and punched him heavily. Purple dragon dodged without any influence from its massive body. It dodged this punch and immediately tightened its body in the air, piercing the man in white like an arrow. The man in white, like a drunken man who couldn't stand up straight, leaned back and dodged the blow from the purple dragon. He then began to clench his fist and hit the purple dragon's body heavily, spewing out a large amount of purple blood. The purple dragon felt pain and howled up to the sky, using a divine dragon tail swing. The dragon's tail swept heavily towards the man in white like a steel whip. The man saw the situation and quickly imprinted his hands. He grabbed the lower part of his body with such force that he inserted his fingers deeply into the flesh of the purple dragon, and then fell down heavily. Dragon Catcher. The purple dragon was shocked. This technique was created specifically for the dragon clan by the human race's great ability. It couldn't resist and only managed to stabilize its figure after rolling a few times in the air. It knew well that it was not a match for the man in front of it, but it probably couldn't even leave now. Do you know that I come from the current royal family? Kill me, and our family will never cease to die. The purple dragon roared up to the sky, its body length increasing by more than a few miles, and the entire sky was filled with its massive body, shrouded in dark clouds. A huge dragon head protrudes from the top of the cloud, and beneath the clouds, its body can be vaguely seen coiled layer by layer. Roar! It roared, with a dragon's roar piercing through the sky, twisting its winding body for thousands of miles, and rushing towards the man in a dazzling manner. Dragon Dance 9 Heavens. Shout out air. The man snorted coldly, when you bloodily washed the human race, you should have thought of never ending with the human race. Regardless of whether the real dragon is like an immortal or not, how dare you, a reptile, call yourself the real dragon? He was not afraid at all, clenching his fist marks and facing the flying dragon head, a punch pierced through his brain. A purple little dragon flew out of the huge dragon head, fleeing in fear towards the distance. The man reached out and crushed it, then refined some essence and used it for drinking. For him, this battle was indeed without any suspense. With a wave of his hand, the barrier imposed by the purple dragon shattered, and he vaguely saw an old monkey bowing to him in the city before disappearing. The man did not investigate carefully and collected the 100-meter-long dragon corpse. Then, with a flick of his sleeve and robe, he released some of the people who were saved by him into the city and turned into a rainbow and left. The barrier was gone, but the chubby Taoist was not particularly happy because an old monkey suddenly appeared in front of them. The old monkey did not conceal its cultivation from the chubby Taoist, making him too imposing to take a breath. It glanced at the chubby Taoist and then stared at the little squirrel on the girl's head. Duanda appeared again in the previous generations. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Monkeys. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. Monkeys, am I that scary? The old monkey felt helpless. No, 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 you have a kind face and eyes. At first glance, you look like a good monkey. The chubby Taoist quickly flattered, wondering where such a great deity came from. The old monkey smiled without hesitation, waved his hand, and the little squirrel suddenly jumped onto the old monkey. Its big eyes were filled with tears, and it fell off like a firecracker. The old monkey sighed slightly and gently stroked its head with its furry hand, saying, "The demon element has dissipated, and my cultivation has been completely lost. Surprisingly, I still have a trace of longing for me." It shone with its hands, enveloping the little squirrel in a hazy halo. The little squirrel didn't resist, curled up in a ball around its arms, and its big tail bent forward, curling up into a squirrel ball in the halo. The old monkey tied the seal at a dazzling speed. A little purple light was forced out of the little squirrel's body, and the old monkey took a white jade vase and put it inside. The blood of that evil dragon will be a great disaster if left on its body. It then took out a crystal-clear white jade cauldron. As soon as he took it out, the people present smelled a fragrance that seemed to want people to feather and soar. This is... The chubby Taoist felt that his pores were about to stretch out and couldn't help but move forward a few steps. The old monkey glanced at him and immediately made him swallow his saliva, stopping his pace. The old monkey opened the cauldron and found 2 swimming golden dragons inside, just looking round and rolling. It grabbed one of them, sealed the cauldron, and inserted it into the little squirrel's body. At the moment when the golden dragon entered the little squirrel's body, countless roars and fragments of the great road converged from the void, pouring into the little squirrel's body. The little squirrel's body emitted a soft golden light, and at this moment, there was no need for the old monkey to cast spells. Wan Dao had already lifted it up on his own. Through the golden light emitted by the little squirrel, the girl vaguely noticed that there seemed to be countless super small squirrels bouncing back and forth, busy repairing something inside. The distant chanting of scriptures rang out leisurely from the little squirrel's body. The sound was ethereal, as if it had been passed down from the ancient era of gods and demons. If one listens attentively, it will feel even more blurry. Once one relaxes their mind, the scripture will flow through their hearts like a clear spring, enlightening them. The golden light is introverted and condenses into a golden seal script on the little squirrel, resembling a dragon. It then blends into the little squirrel's body and disappears completely. At this moment, the fur of the little squirrel was as smooth as if it had been washed again, shiny and glossy, with a compelling spiritual energy that made people unable to resist holding and caressing it in their hands. A drop of the essence of the true dragon immortal medicine can reshape the foundation of the demon race. It can be considered a blessing in disguise. Your future achievements are limitless. True dragon immortal medicine. Both the chubby Taoist and the young man were surprised. As a cultivator, the chubby Taoist knows his reputation. And the young man also reads some scattered records in some mortal classics. The so-called elixir of immortality, also known as divine medicine, has an adverse effect of life and death on human flesh and bones. Legend has it that they come in various forms and possess spiritual intelligence, often rooted in forbidden areas that are difficult for ordinary people to venture into. When in danger, they can fly to heaven and escape on their own, and only those who truly have the chance may have the opportunity to have a full view. The specific quantity of elixirs of immortality is unknown, even in ancient texts passed down from ancient times. It is evident that it is rare from ancient times. And now, the old monkey in front of him actually pulled out 2 drops of the essence of the elixir of immortality, easily reshaping the foundation of the once dying little squirrel, and even further advancing. How can this not be surprising? Hang Daosher's slander. I've come across some good guys, but unfortunately, I can't trick you, I can't snatch them away, I can't fight them. Sigh. Being close to Baoshan and unable to take anything, he wished he could give himself a few slaps. The old monkey bowed to the girl and the young man and said, "This is my disciple. I was chased by the evil dragon, but fortunately it sacrificed itself to save me. My cultivation was completely cut off by the evil dragon. If it weren't for the 2 of you who saved me, I'm afraid we would never have met again." The young man quickly replied, "Senior, there's no need to be too polite. At that time, I saw that the little squirrel was severely injured and couldn't bear it. I took advantage of the situation and raised my hand. I'm afraid my role would be extremely limited." The chubby Taoist understood that the black hand pursued by the emotional Wanlong nest was the kind-hearted old monkey in front of him. He really didn't know what treasure he had taken from the Wanlong nest, but from the elixir he casually pulled out, it seemed that the treasure on this old monkey was really indispensable. "Unfortunately, we can't grab the pit and can't fight it." The chubby Taoist once again hammered himself in his heart. At this moment, some ordinary people rescued by the man in white were still in shock, staring blankly at the cluttered and dirty streets, unable to speak to themselves for a long time. After this battle, Yen City lost approximately 1/3 of its population. Many children have lost their parents, and many people have lost their loved ones. The law of survival in this world is the law of the jungle. Without sufficient strength, and regardless of loved ones, one may not even be able to protect their own lives. Many people will realize this and worship the immortal sect, search for immortals, and even go against the trend, becoming a domain pride. However, despite the numerous immortal sects and extremely strict selection criteria, they are also unwilling to waste resources on people without any cultivation talent. Most people can only return to the life of facing the yellow earth and facing the sky, exhausted from making a living, but there are still people who enjoy it. They believe that this is also a practice, and even write 100 poems, which have been passed down for generations and become a beautiful story. As the saying goes, I asked why my former residence was here, but without answering, my heart was at ease. Let's watch the long rainbow run through the white sun, bowing down and pouring a cup to offer to Du Kong. How high is the immortal? What can I do? What if it's Xiannai? I lie drunk at the foot of the southern mountain, drinking peach blossoms in the spring breeze for 10 miles. It is precisely the optimistic and open-minded attitude of ordinary people that has enabled them, who were originally weak, to spread their branches and leaves on this land, and continue to pass it on endlessly. In a few years, Yen City will surely return to its former prosperity. Hearing the sound gradually coming from the street, the old monkey waved his sleeve robe and the group disappeared from the inn. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. A first look at practice. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. A first look at practice. Hee, the girl can fly. A little girl's silver bell-like laughter came from 10,000 meters high in the air. Ordinary people have to walk for 2 or 3 days, and cultivators can reach it in an instant. In fact, the old monkey originally planned to put them directly into his sleeve and release them after they arrived, which saved a lot of trouble. After asking the boy where he lived, the little girl leaned over and hugged his furry legs, her big black jewel-like eyes shining brightly. Uncle Monkey, are you taking your brother and daughter back to fly? The old monkey paused for a moment and nodded. The pure and flawless spirit of a little girl makes it very fond. However, the chubby Taoist is not so lucky. Although he can also fly, this kind of differential treatment makes him a bit unhappy. Anyway, I don't deserve it, Taoist. He angrily followed behind the old monkey. Approaching the primitive mountain range where the young man was located, both the chubby Taoist and the old monkey suddenly shook. In the vast mountains, an invisible momentum transforms into a field, suppressing their path. The chubby Taoist no longer fools around and squints his eyes. Although he is not a person who is well versed in this path, he also has a good understanding of it. The mountains below seem to be densely packed and disorganized, but they are actually artificially arranged. On the surface, various mountain ranges converge here, surrounded by stars and the moon, but in reality, the dragon veins of all mountains are trapped and unable to move. Under normal circumstances, the dragon vein should emit spiritual energy that nurtures all things. This place is already full of ghosts and monsters, but due to the dragon vein being locked, the spiritual energy is blocked. Not only are plants, insects, and fish unable to cultivate the Tao, but also creatures with Tao practices will be suppressed when they come here. He informed the old monkey of his thoughts, and the latter expressed approval. However, even the knowledgeable old monkey did not know where the divine had such a hand. I have heard that there is a lineage of active celestial masters in the northern regions, who can observe the terrain, lock the dragon veins, stabilize the divine source, pick stars and invite the moon with every move and gesture, and transform the overall situation of heaven and earth into their own use. It is not impressive, and perhaps only experts like them dare to lay out like this. The girl sat obediently on the clouds, listening attentively to the old monkey communicating with the chubby Taoist, while the boy held his sister's hand on the side, always being careful not to let her fall. Let's go down. The group of people walked straight to the small thatched cottage, and the young man thanked them. At the same time, his heart moved and he seized the opportunity to inquire about the selection of the immortal sect a few months later. The old monkey was thoughtful and believed that it seemed to be related to the overall situation here. The old monkey doesn't know the specific matters related to the selection of immortal sects, but he just said that in the cultivation world, there are often different sects of all sizes who go to the mortal world to find children with good qualifications and cultivate them. If the situation here is related to this, then this force must be quite astonishing. After all, it is only a casual cultivation and a demon cultivation, and the knowledge of how the human cultivation world operates is limited. However, as a reward, it decided to impart some basic knowledge about cultivation to the two of them. The old monkey sat cross-legged in the center of the courtyard, the boy and the girl sat cross-legged by its side, the little squirrel sat cross-legged on the girl's head, and the chubby Taoist found an excuse to slip away. As he said, this place is quite mysterious and suitable for archaeology, so he reluctantly refused to listen to the teachings of a master and went to devote himself to the great archaeological cause. In the anticipation of the boy and the girl, the old monkey spoke softly. Life is the greatest miracle in the world. From mosquitoes, ants, fireflies to giant dragons, the former can be found in every corner of the world, killing endlessly. The latter stood proudly at a height of 10,000 meters, roaring and shattering thousands of mountains and rivers. All life contains infinite potential, even humble as ants and insects. After fully realizing their own potential, they can soar thousands of meters high and fight against dragons. One flower, one world, one leaf, one Bodhi. Although all things in the world are born into this world, they themselves are also like small worlds. Continuously exploring one's own small world is the process of constantly unlocking one's own potential. The girl frowned and struggled to understand. She didn't interrupt the old monkey, but instead blushed. But more importantly, with her brother by her side, she had no intention of listening attentively. Anyway, with her brother around, hee. The young man's face was calm, and he was also digesting and absorbing the words of the old monkey, but it was not as difficult as a girl's. The first step in practicing is to open up the sea of suffering, said the old monkey. What is the ocean of suffering? The path of practice is long and obstructed. Encourage yourself to practice and not fall into the sea of suffering. Even though the mundane world is full of hardships, the difficulties encountered in the path of cultivation are thousands of times more difficult, and one's life is often lost. Only after experiencing the hardships of opening up the sea of suffering can one clear the mind of locking the path and wholeheartedly pursue the path in the future. There is also a saying that the bitter sea means the collection of all the hardships and temptations in the mortal world. In the process of opening up the bitter sea, if one cannot withstand the hardships and temptations, they will also be rejected by the great road and have no chance of cultivation. They can only struggle through the bitter sea of the mortal world in their lifetime. The bitter sea is right at your belly button, one of the most important small worlds for the human body. The young man lowered his head and felt nothing. The old monkey saw the situation and probed for him. Your physique. It frowned and noticed that the young man's sea of suffering was different from that of an ordinary person, continuing to explore further. Inside the boy's body, a rock-solid sea of suffering hung there. As the old monkey used his skills, there was a faint sound of waves coming out. In a daze, the old monkey saw countless golden lights and turbulent waves. It stopped exploring and had a rough guess in its heart. This kind of constitution seems to be an extremely rare one recorded in ancient books of the human race, similar to the Tao and suitable for cultivation. Upon hearing this, the young man quickly inquired in detail, hoping to learn more. Just the old monkey shook its head, and it didn't even know how much. Nevertheless, the young man still secretly rejoiced that if he became a member of the immortal sect as a result, he would definitely be able to take better care of his sister. The old monkey turned his gaze to the girl again, and with just a little probing, he knew that her physical condition was extremely poor, inferior to that of an ordinary person, possibly related to the artificially arranged situation in this place. If it were to cultivate, it would not be an easy task. Upon hearing this, the young man took Nan Nan's hand and comforted her, saying, "Don't be sad, Nan Nan. It's good to have an older brother around. If my brother becomes a fairy, he can take better care of Nan Nan." Well, the girl trusts her brother. In the following months, every morning, the boy, the girl, and the little squirrel would always exhale their energy in front of the sunrise. The little squirrel entered the country very quickly, opened up the sea of suffering, and then rose a section, allowing it to fly above the ground. Every day, it flew back and forth above the girl and the boy's head, occasionally picking many large and round fruits in the forest and distributing them to the boy and girl. The young man had great talent on the path of cultivation. With the guidance of the old monkey, he became more and more aware of the existence of the sea of suffering, and could faintly hear the sound of lightning, thunder, and surging waves in his own sea of suffering. The girl, on the other hand, remained the same as before. Even though she never fell behind in meditation and breathing, she couldn't even touch the shadow of the sea of suffering. She couldn't help but feel very distressed. The young man comforted seriously upon seeing the situation. Girl doesn't need to work so hard. According to Uncle Monkey, when my brother's cultivation is successful, we can also help her open up the sea of suffering, and then she can fly around like a little squirrel. The old monkey may have thought that Wanlong Nest would not give up easily, so he drifted away halfway. Before leaving, a silver thin slice was taken out of the little squirrel's body and gifted to the young man. This item is the supreme treasure and can be opened when you have completed your cultivation. However, be careful not to disclose this item to the outside world, as it will inevitably lead to death. If the chubby Taoist were here, he would suddenly realize that at the time of Yen City, it was this object that protected the young man and his group well. The young man thanked him, bid farewell to the old monkey, and handed this item over to the little squirrel. Among several people, it has the highest cultivation, and it is safest to entrust it to its custody. Day and night together, they have already regarded the little squirrel as their closest person. The boy and the girl still went up the mountain to pick herbs, but there was an extra little squirrel flying back and forth, each time with a big belly, bringing back many sour and sweet fruits. Squirrel, you've eaten yourself round and round again. Can you still fly? Let the girl give you a rub. The little squirrel was scratched and itchy, but because it couldn't fly, it had to scratch in place and struggle desperately. Teenagers burst into laughter. The sun and moon change, time flies by, and several months pass by gracefully. This peaceful small mountain village has welcomed a group of uninvited guests. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Respectively, you are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. Respectively, the moon is bright and the stars are sparse, and the black magpies are flying south. In the valley, a long rainbow cuts through the sky and stops in front of this primitive mountain range. The light dissipated, and it turned out to be the white jade bird that had appeared in the village before. Compared to before, its body had been magnified by hundreds of times, with dazzling light and a breathtaking glow. A faint figure could be seen on it, and one of them whispered. The layout of the divine dynasty has been around for thousands of years, covering half of the star realm, just to find the appropriate bloodline. Now, the restoration of that artifact is imminent, and there must be no mistake. Yes. Two black shadows stood up and disappeared from their original position. Many years ago, there was a Holy Communion in this place. Under the pressure of the power here, it should be difficult to practice. I believe it will still be here, and you will go with me to ensure that there is no mistake. Yes, a woman responded, her voice ethereal and pleasant, as refreshing as a clear spring in a secluded valley. The white jade stone bird shook its head vividly, spread its wings, and disappeared in an instant. On the second day, the village was bustling with activity. Almost all the men, women, and children in the village crowded around the village, watching three unwelcome guests from afar. The woman in the center has a beautiful face, dressed in a snow-white down jacket. Her clothes are floating in dust-free, embroidered with hollow feathers that cover her body layer by layer like real bird feathers, as if she is about to transform into an immortal in the next second. A ribbon around her waist folds the down jacket, outlining a plump and graceful waist, further elongating her graceful figure. Her delicate big eyes flow with beautiful and charming eye waves. With every frown and smile, one cannot help but feel intoxicated. The other two men were respectful and happened to be half a step behind the woman, but they were also dressed in splendid attire and captured people with heroic gestures. The woman smiled, her emerald hair brushing lightly, like a spring breeze brushing her face, tender like water. The man in the village couldn't help but fall for it and was slapped on the head by his own wife. She lifted her vermilion lips lightly, and her voice sounded like a heavenly melody. Originating from the path of immortality, our hearts aspire to eternal life. Today, we cordially invite those who practice Taoism to use their mortal bodies to master the Dharma, bravely climb the path of immortality, transcend the world, and forge ahead. Those who aspire to the Tao, diligently practice, and hold on to their original intention. Soothe worries of the world, transcend the troubles of the world, and share the joy of cultivation. Those who intend to do so, please sprinkle your blood on this object. A hazy green light lit up, and a rusty green copper floated and sank in front of the villagers. After a moment of silence, some people cut their wrists and dripped onto the green copper. However, the green copper remained calm and unresponsive. The young man led the girl to stand in the crowd. When it was his turn, he walked forward and cut his wrist, sprinkling blood. Suddenly, the green copper glow shone brightly like a scorching sun, shining with dazzling brilliance, making everyone unable to open their eyes. The woman's beautiful eyes shone brightly and said, "I have it." Two men were about to step forward and take away the young man upon hearing the words, but the woman waved her bare hand to stop them and walked forward with graceful steps. When the young man regained his clear vision from the strong light, he saw the beautiful and indescribable woman standing in front of him just now, smiling and fragrant. If a young man intends to enter our immortal sect, with the talent of a young man, he will surely look down upon his peers and look down upon the 9 heavens. The young man's heart moved, but he was immediately filled with his sister's timid big eyes. He turned around and brought the little girl behind him, who was at a loss, and asked. "I intend to enter the immortal sect, but my younger sister is still young. If she cannot accompany her, she may not be able to make it." The man behind him frowned at the words and was about to take action. There must be no mistakes in the affairs of the divine court. The woman turned around and scolded, "Step back, I'll handle it." After the man gives up, this woman holds a high status and few people can influence her will. "My younger sister is so cute. Tell her, what's your name? How old are you this year?" The woman bent down and looked at the girl, grinning lightly. The girl only felt the sunshine in front of her, and she spoke faintly. "Hello fairy sister, my name is Nan Nan and I am 4 years old this year." In just an instant, she figured out the reality of the girl and came to the same conclusion as an old monkey. Poor physical condition, unfavorable for cultivation. The woman frowned slightly and thought of a good place to go. In order to gather the physical fitness of the world, the forces behind them not only laid out various aspects, but also established many children's welfare institutions accordingly. Among them, children with some basic skills were sent to the forces for further training, and there happened to be such a place in Donghuang where they were located. She looked at the young man and told him her intentions. The woman saw that the girl always values the young man in everything, and as long as the young man nodded in agreement, she would likely comply. Welfare institutions are taken care of, and the women are gentle, suggesting that the little girls there will have a much better life than here. The young man pondered for a moment and asked. "If I go with the fairy, I wonder when I can see my sister again. This trip may lead to the other side of the starry sky, with a conservative estimate of several years' time." Years. And it's a conservative estimate, which means it's possible for 10 or 20 years. The young man pondered, but his sister, upon hearing that she had been unable to see her brother for several years, the girl's big eyes, like black gemstones, suddenly shrouded in mist. She spoke softly and rubbed her hands with her head down, looking timid. "Brother, the girl doesn't want to be separated from you." But she also understood that if her brother didn't go, she and his brother would have to live a poor life like this all along. The young man felt a daze upon hearing these words. "Over the years, despite being poor, every day and night, my younger sister's sweet smile and soft words have caught my eye. Thinking of her clear gaze that completely trusted him and treated him as the closest and most important person to me, how could he want to separate from her?" However, he also wanted his sister to live an ordinary life instead of starving and worrying about her life with him every day. He lifted the head of the girl, who could no longer hold back her tears. Tears as big as beans were rolling down one after another. Not far away, one of the two men who came with the woman moved his lips slightly and whispered to the other. The feather fairy has a kind heart. If they continue to entangle like this, I'm afraid the young man will not want to go with us. Why don't we kill that girl and take her away? As the protectors of the divine court, even if the fairy is a holy sister, we cannot be dealt with arbitrarily. The younger sister's helpless sobs were like sharp blades gouging out in the young man's heart. He was feeling remorseful, but saw the two men behind the woman with ill expressions, as if they were about to take action. He suddenly realized something was wrong. If he refused, would his sister be in danger? If that's the case, he would rather go far away. Seeing the young man looking at the two men, the woman turned around and looked closely. The two men saw this and had to stop, coldly looking at the scene before them. The young man, upon seeing this, was even more convinced of his thoughts. He had made up his mind to go, endured his grief, and said to the girl. Girl, I heard from the fairy sister that there are still many children as big as girls in the place you are going to. You can play hide and seek every day and eat a lot of delicious food together. Brother just wants to practice, isn't it that you don't want to be a girl anymore? When brother's cultivation is successful, you will definitely come back. Didn't brother say that? If you want to take girl to become a fairy together, girl believes in brother, right? Upon hearing this, the girl sniffled and cried, saying. But a few years later, the girl will grow up and my brother won't know her anymore. The boy picked up the hand of the girl wearing a bronze ring and rubbed it against the rudimentary ring. How could it be? Nanny, my brother will definitely know which one belongs to Nanny, and Nanny is carrying this. If my brother doesn't find you, he will agree to whatever punishment you want. The girl lowered her head and wept, unable to say a complete word. The young man looked up at the sky, tears streaming down his face. He then said. Brother will take the mask away. If one day, Nan Nan suddenly discovers a person wearing a mask scaring you, Nan Nan shouldn't cry. That's because brother has come back, okay? The boy wiped away his tears, scraped off the girl's cheong nose, and squeezed out a bright smile. The girl pursed her lips, crying and laughing loudly, emitting a big snot bubble. Okay, girl knows. She will have fun with the children and wait for her brother to come back. Don't worry, girl. She will practice seriously and wait for you. As she gazed at the scene before her and heard the young but sensible words of the girl, her heart became sour. She knew that the young man's journey was unlucky, but if he were to improve his cultivation, perhaps he wouldn't have to sacrifice his whole body's blood. If that's the case, there will still be a day for the siblings to meet. Can you give me another hour? I want to spend more time with my sister. Sure, the woman replied. In the last hour before parting, the boy led the girl to various corners where they had once collected herbs. Along the way, the girl cried and wept, no matter how much the boy coaxed her, she couldn't stop crying. Girls should be sensible. Girl. I know. Amidst the exhausted cries of the little girl, the boy and two men turned into a rainbow and went away. The fairy-like woman stayed behind, intending to personally escort the girl over. End of this chapter.